Leaving course clients thinking, well, now what, is killing your engagement. And a lack of engagement is killing your course, which leads to revenue loss. I'm Dr. Catrina Mitchum, and I've been designing and redesigning courses online since 2009. Unclear next steps creates this domino effect. Confusion leads to being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed leads to procrastination. Procrastination leads to abandoning the course. So if you're kind of looking for some signs that this is happening, we usually see this as a lack of engagement, which is what this whole playlist has been about so far. We see it as a lack of completion, and we can see it as a lack of response. So there are some root causes to course creators doing this, right? To setting a course up that has unclear kind of next steps. One is assuming too much previous knowledge. So they assume that their course clients are coming to them with more information than they actually are. They could also be skipping transitions. So transition explanations are really important to understanding how the learning journey flows, right? So this can look like things that are activities ending without clear next steps, other than like start the next module, but then there's no connection between the two. It can look like your course lacking transitional elements even between the content and the activities. Something else that course creators sometimes do that causes this lack in clarity is organizing content logically for themselves instead of for their course clients, right? And so for the client, that can look and feel like the path through the course not being obvious, not being clear. People forgetting where they left off if they have to go for a while and then come back in. It can also make the overall structure feel really disconnected, which can make it difficult to learn, right? We want them to learn and be successful because that's how we get them to come back for other things, and that's how we get them to refer our course to other people. We want them raving about us. Otherwise, your course isn't going to be a sustainable part of your business. Having unclear next steps is also costly. When clients don't know what to do next or how to do next or how things are connected, it's more difficult to engage. And so this can look like people not answering your check-ins, people not giving you feedback if you're running a beta test, clients just closing your course and never opening it back up again. And so, if you have kind of that sticky point where people get stuck, but part of it is a lack of clarity for what to do with the information, right? You can have a course that is built on activities and is engaging and has all of these action items, right? It can be an action-based course, but if those actions aren't clearly connected, or you don't say, okay, you're going to go write the questions, they write the questions, and then you say, just find people to answer your questions. Okay, well, how do I do that? And so some of this is leaving steps out, but some of this is also making connections between the things that you've had them already do and the things that they should do next, and why those things talk to each other, right? So in that example, that next step might be, now go to your audience in the ways you already interact with them and ask them these questions. Ask them these questions one at a time. Do a poll, like giving out ideas where they can see themselves in it, right? And so the action becomes a little more clear because that next step has some ideas, right? It's not prescriptive. It's not you should do it this way, but it gets them thinking about how they're going to take that next step that can't be guided by you, that can't be done by you, right? Because they have to do this work. Okay, so some practical solutions other than the ones that I just gave. Adding clear module summaries, right? So when a new module is starting, summarizing what they've done so far and then what this module is going to help them to do that's going to prepare them for the next thing, right? So every kind of next steps touch point doesn't have to be at every single smaller task. It can be in the bigger modules sections, especially if you have multiple modules. You can also create what's next sections for each lesson. That's a really good place to recap on what they've done and explain how that's going to move forward and how they're going to move forward. You can have progress indicators, and those shouldn't just be based on they watched the video because whoop-de-doo, right? If they watch the video, that doesn't mean that they engage with it. That doesn't mean they got anything out of it. You want to make sure that they are kind of progress indicators that tell them how much progress they're making, right? So if I'm going to go back to the questions example, if they've just created questions to get feedback on their topic for their course, that's one of the things that happens in my freebie, then that becomes a progress point, right? Then the next step in that progress is taking those questions and asking the audience. That becomes a progress point. The next step after that is looking at what they said and thinking about it and analyzing it and reflecting on it and deciding what to use, right? What is useful for moving forward. And so having those as the actions as the progress indicators for getting to that goal, right? They want to know the progress toward the goal, not just, oh, I've watched all the videos. That's easy. And you can do those progress indicators in text. You can do it visually. I kind of like the idea of an actual roadmap that has what those pieces are. And it doesn't have to be fancy or electronic. You can literally draw it and then update like where they are at each point of the process. Like you've gotten this far. That could be something you include in the module overviews before you're telling them what's next. It's this is also how far you've come. Not sure if there are gaps in your course? Grab my free Clarity Gap checklist and audit your course for barriers to what's next. Next time, we're going to talk about why clear beats clever in course engagement. If it's not there, it'll be there next week.